I looked at my reflection in the hallway mirror and smiled. 65 years old today. The house smelled like roses and vanilla cake, and through the double doors, I could hear laughter spilling from the ballroom my son had rented. Marcelo had planned everything. The flowers, the guest list, even the champagne. "Mom, you deserve this," he'd said last week, squeezing my hand. I believed him. I believed every word. But then my husband grabbed my wrist in the middle of my own party and whispered 5 words that turned my blood to ice. "Something's wrong. Look at this." Everything I thought I knew about my family was about to shatter. If this story resonates with you, please subscribe to the channel. We're new here, and every day we'll be sharing stories like this one. Your support means the world. My name is Lucia Tavares, and until that Saturday afternoon, I thought I had it all figured out. A good marriage of 42 years. 2 children, Marcelo, my eldest, and Sophia, who lived abroad. A modest but comfortable life. We weren't rich, but we owned our home outright, and I had savings from my years teaching elementary school. Enough to feel secure, enough to feel proud. The party was Marcelo's idea. "Mom, you only turned 65 once," he'd said, his eyes bright with excitement. "Let me do this for you." His wife, Vanessa, had nodded eagerly beside him. They'd been married 3 years, and I'd tried so hard to love her the way a mother-in-law should. She was polished, ambitious, always dressed like she was heading to a business meeting. Sometimes I felt small around her, like my life of lesson plans and parent-teacher conferences didn't measure up. But I pushed those feelings down. Family is family. The morning of the party, I woke up happy. My husband, Roberto, brought me coffee in bed, something he hadn't done in years. The sunlight came through the curtains in soft sheets, and for a moment, everything felt suspended in gold. "You look beautiful," he said, and I almost believed him, even with my gray hair and the lines around my eyes that no cream could erase. I spent the morning getting ready, taking my time with makeup I rarely wore. The dress I'd chosen was burgundy, simple but elegant, something that made me feel like myself, just a slightly more polished version. Roberto wore the navy suit I'd bought him for our anniversary. We looked like a couple who'd made it, who'd survived decades together and come out whole. We arrived at the venue at 3. Marcelo had chosen a small events hall on the edge of town. Simple but elegant. White tablecloths, string lights, a DJ setting up in the corner. Vanessa was already there, directing staff with the precision of a general. She kissed my cheek, her perfume sharp and expensive, and said, "Everything's perfect, Lucia. Just wait." I floated through the first hour. Old friends from the school where I'd taught for 30 years. Neighbors who'd watched my children grow. My book club. Women I'd laughed and cried with over stories that had nothing to do with our own lives. Everyone hugged me, told me I hadn't aged a day, laughed at jokes that weren't that funny. The cake was beautiful. 3 tiers, covered in edible flowers that looked almost too delicate to eat. I felt like a queen. The photographer Marcelo had hired kept snapping pictures. "Smile, Mrs. Tavares," she called out, and I did, over and over. I smiled until my cheeks hurt. I smiled while cutting the cake, while dancing with Roberto, while Marcelo gave a toast about what a wonderful mother I'd been. "To the woman who taught me everything," he said, raising his glass. Everyone applauded. I cried a little. Happy tears, I thought. Then Roberto's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowned, and slipped into the hallway. I didn't think much of it. Maybe work. He still consulted part-time for an engineering firm. But when he came back 5 minutes later, his face had changed. The color was gone. His jaw was tight. His eyes had that look he got when something was deeply, fundamentally wrong. "Lucia," he said quietly, pulling me aside. "We need to talk. Now." "What?" "Roberto, I'm in the middle of..." "Now." His voice left no room for argument. He led me to a small office at the back of the venue, the kind of space used for storage. Folding chairs stacked against one wall, boxes of decorations, a desk covered in dusty binders. The music from the party was muffled here, a distant throb of bass. Roberto closed the door and locked it. That's when I knew. Something terrible had happened. "What's going on?" I asked. My heart was starting to pound. "Is it Sophia? Did something happen to..." "No, it's not Sophia." He pulled out his phone and handed it to me without another word. His hand was shaking. On the screen was a text message thread. The contact name read Marcelo, but these weren't messages to Roberto. They were screenshots. Messages between Marcelo and Vanessa, sent from Vanessa's phone to someone else, then forwarded to Roberto by that person. I didn't understand at first. The letters blurred together. I had to blink, focus, read them twice. Marcelo. How much longer do we have to wait? Vanessa. Not long. After the party we move. She's been complaining about chest pains again. Marcelo. Good. Make it look natural. No one will question it at her age. Vanessa. And then the house is ours. The savings too. Your sister's in London. She won't fight us. Marcelo. I've already looked into it. If it's a heart attack, there's rarely an autopsy, especially with her history. Vanessa. Perfect. I'm tired of waiting. This party is costing us money we could be using. I stared at the words. They didn't make sense. They were in Portuguese, in my son's voice. I could hear his tone, his cadence, but they felt like a foreign language, like something translated badly, losing meaning in the transition. What is this? Roberto's voice cracked. Elena sent them to me, Vanessa's sister. She found them on Vanessa's laptop last night when she was visiting. She didn't know what to do. She was terrified. Lucia, they're planning to kill you. The room tilted. I grabbed the edge of the desk to steady myself, my fingers pressing into the cheap laminate until they hurt. No, that's not possible. Marcelo wouldn't. Read it again. I did. The words didn't change. Make it look natural. The savings. The house. My chest pains. Real chest pains I'd mentioned to Marcelo 2 months ago, after a stressful week at the volunteer center. Anxiety, the doctor said. Stress-related. Nothing serious. Take some time for yourself, he'd told me. But here they were, those innocent words twisted into a weapon, into an opportunity. We have to call the police, Roberto said. He was already pulling up the number on his phone. No. My voice came out sharper than I intended, cutting through the small space. Not yet. I need to understand. I need to see his face. Roberto looked at me like I'd lost my mind. Maybe I had. Maybe in that moment, standing in that storage room while my birthday party continued without me, something in my brain had simply broken. But I couldn't call the police on my own son based on text messages. I needed more. I needed proof that wouldn't shatter if I looked at it too hard. I needed to hear him say it, or see him do it, or catch him in the act of whatever horror he was planning. Lucia, this is insane. If they're planning to... I carried that boy for 9 months. My voice was steady now, cold. I raised him. I know him, or I thought I did, but I need to be sure, completely sure, because if we call the police now and it's all a misunderstanding, or if those messages are fake, or if... You think Elena is lying? I don't know what I think. The words came out louder than I meant. I pressed my hand to my mouth, took a breath. I just need to see for myself. Please. Roberto stared at me for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Okay, but we're careful. We don't eat or drink anything they give us. We don't let them anywhere near you alone. And at the first sign of real danger, we run. Agreed? Agreed. So I made a decision that might have been the stupidest or bravest thing I'd ever done. We were going back to that party. We were going to act normal, and we were going to watch them. Walking back into that ballroom felt like stepping onto a stage in a play I didn't know the lines to. The music was loud, some pop song I didn't recognize. People were dancing. My sister was at the bar, talking animatedly with her husband. Marcelo stood near the cake table, laughing with his cousin about something. Vanessa was by the windows, her phone in her hand, scrolling with that blank expression people get when they're not really present. They both looked so... normal, so innocent, like the kind of young couple anyone would be happy to have in their family. I forced myself to smile, to hug my sister when she came over, smelling of the wine she'd been drinking, to cut the cake while everyone sang, their voices blending into a wall of sound that felt both comforting and suffocating. But the whole time, I was watching. Every glance between Marcelo and Vanessa, every whispered word, every movement of their hands. At one point, Vanessa brought me a glass of champagne. For the birthday girl, she said, her smile wide and perfect, showing teeth that were just a shade too white. Professional whitening, probably. Everything about her was professional, calculated. I took the glass. I held it. The bubbles rose in lazy spirals. I didn't drink. Roberto, standing beside me like a shadow, took it gently from my hand a minute later and set it on a table behind us. "Let's get you some water instead," he said, loud enough for Vanessa to hear. "You know champagne gives you headaches." Vanessa's smile didn't falter. Of course, I should have remembered, but there was something in her eyes, just a flicker, that made my skin crawl. I saw Marcelo watching us from across the room, and for the first time in my life, I didn't recognize the look in my son's eyes. It was calculating, measuring, like he was trying to figure out if we suspected something. I smiled at him, waved. He waved back, that familiar grin spreading across his face, the same grin he'd had when he was 7 and proud of some drawing he'd made. My baby boy, except he wasn't anymore. The party dragged on. More dancing, more cake. The photographer took pictures of me with different groups of people, all of us arranged like we were genuinely happy. Maybe they were. Maybe I was the only one standing in that room with a knife slowly turning in my chest. Around 7:30, I excused myself to the bathroom. Roberto started to follow, but I shook my head. "I'm fine. Just need a minute." I needed to be alone, to breathe, to try to make sense of what was happening. The bathroom was blessedly quiet, the music reduced to a dull thump through the walls. I locked myself in a stall and sat down, fully clothed, my hands shaking. I thought about Marcelo as a child, the way he'd hold my hand crossing the street, the way he'd cry when I left him at kindergarten, those huge tears rolling down his chubby cheeks, the way he'd run to me after soccer games, win or lose, needing a hug. Where had that boy gone? When had he been replaced by someone who could type those words, make it look natural? If you've made it this far, please subscribe to our channel and leave a like. It's so important. It shows YouTube that this content matters to you. Thank you. Someone knocked on the bathroom door. "Lucia, you okay in there?" It was my sister, concern in her voice. "Fine," I called back, forcing brightness into my tone. "Just needed a moment. Too much excitement. Well, hurry up. They're about to do the toast." I emerged, fixed my makeup, and went back to the party. Marcelo was standing by the microphone, glass in hand, waiting for me. When he saw me, his face lit up with what looked like genuine love. "There she is. Come here, Mom." I walked over. He put his arm around me, pulled me close. I could smell his cologne, the same brand he'd worn since college, something woody and expensive that Vanessa had probably picked out. "I just want to say," he began, his voice carrying over the crowd, "that my mother is the most incredible woman I know. She sacrificed everything for me and my sister. She worked 2 jobs to put us through school. She never complained. She never gave up on us. And I want her to know," he looked down at me, his eyes shining, "that everything I have, everything I am, is because of her." Everyone applauded. I felt tears on my face, and didn't know if they were real or if I was just that good at pretending. Marcelo kissed my cheek. "I love you, Mom. I love you too," I whispered. And God help me, it was true. Even knowing what I knew, I still loved him. That's the cruelty of it, isn't it? Love doesn't just shut off when you want it to. The party ended at 8. Guests trickled out, hugging me, promising to call, thanking Marcelo for the lovely event. "You're so lucky to have such a devoted son," Mrs. Martinez from my book club told me, patting my hand. I smiled and nodded, and felt like I was going to be sick. Marcelo and Vanessa stayed to help clean up, or so they said. Roberto and I played along, collecting napkins, stacking plates, folding tablecloths. The DJ packed up his equipment, wheeling speakers and mixers out to his van. The staff, young people in black shirts, collected glasses and disappeared into the kitchen. And then it was just the 4 of us in that big, echoing hall, the string lights still twinkling overhead like nothing was wrong. "Mom, you look tired," Marcelo said. His voice was gentle, concerned, the voice he used when I was sick, when he actually cared, or when he pretended to. I couldn't tell the difference anymore. "Why don't you sit down? Vanessa and I will finish up." "I'm fine," I said, but I sat anyway, in one of the chairs near the edge of the room, suddenly exhausted in a way that had nothing to do with the party. Roberto stayed close, positioning himself between me and them like a human shield. Vanessa was wiping down tables with a damp cloth, humming softly. Marcelo was by the door, checking his phone. And then I heard it. A low murmur. He'd pressed the phone to his ear, turned slightly away. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone was unmistakable. Urgent, secretive. The voice of someone making plans. Roberto leaned close to me, his breath warm against my ear. We need to leave. Now. But before we could move, Marcelo hung up and turned around. He smiled at me. That same smile I'd seen 1,000 times growing up. The smile that used to melt my heart when he was in trouble, when he needed forgiveness, and said, "Mom, do you want us to drive you home? You really do look pale. I'm worried about you." "I'm driving her," Roberto said quickly, standing up. Marcelo's smile faltered, just for a second. "Are you sure? I mean, it's no trouble. We're heading that direction anyway. We're sure." Roberto's voice was firm, final, the voice he used when he'd made a decision and wouldn't be swayed. For a moment, the air between them crackled with something I couldn't name. Tension, suspicion, the feeling you get right before a storm breaks. Then Marcelo shrugged, that easy motion he'd always had. "Okay. Well, happy birthday, Mom. I'm really glad we could do this for you. You deserve it." He hugged me, and I let him. I felt his arms around me, smelled his cologne, felt the warmth of his body, the body I'd grown inside mine, fed, bathed, nursed through fevers, and I wanted to scream, or cry, or grab him by the shoulders and demand to know what had happened to him. When had money become more important than his mother's life? When had he turned into this? But I just hugged him back. "Thank you, sweetheart. It was beautiful." Vanessa hugged me too, briefly, her body stiff. "Sleep well, Lucia. You too." We left. Roberto drove in silence, his knuckles white on the steering wheel, jaw clenched so tight I could see the muscle jumping. I stared out the window at the darkening sky, the streetlights beginning to flicker on one by one, and felt something inside me harden. Not quite grief, not quite rage. Something colder, more permanent, like a door closing that would never open again. When we got home, I didn't go to bed. I sat at the kitchen table, the same table where I'd helped Marcelo with his homework, where we'd eaten countless dinners as a family, where I'd taught him to write his name, and made a list. Everything I needed to do, everyone I needed to call. I wrote until my hand cramped, until the page was covered in blue ink, until the sky outside began to lighten with the first hint of dawn. Roberto found me there at 5 a.m, asleep with my head on my arms. He gently woke me. "Come to bed," he said. "I can't," I whispered. "If I sleep, I might wake up and think this was all a nightmare." "It is a nightmare, but we'll face it together." The next morning, Monday, I called a lawyer. Her name was Dr. Helena Carvalho, and she specialized in family law and estate planning. I'd found her online at 2 a.m, reading reviews through blurred vision, cross-referencing her credentials, making sure she was real and good and wouldn't think I was insane. She agreed to see me that same day, which felt like a small miracle. Her office was in a converted house downtown, the kind with high ceilings and crown molding that reminded you of a more elegant era. It smelled like leather and old books, and something floral I couldn't identify. She was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with dark hair pulled back in a severe bun and eyes that seemed to see everything. When she shook my hand, her grip was firm, confident. "Mrs. Tavares, please, sit." I sat in a leather chair that probably cost more than my monthly pension. Roberto sat beside me, holding my hand so tight my fingers hurt. I didn't care. The pressure was grounding, proof that at least one person in my family hadn't betrayed me. I showed her the screenshots on Roberto's phone, my hands shaking so badly he had to hold the phone steady. I explained everything, the party, the timeline, the chest pains I'd mentioned to Marcelo, the glass of champagne I hadn't drunk. She listened without interrupting, taking notes on a yellow legal pad with a fountain pen, her expression neutral but focused. When I finished, she set down her pen and looked at me for a long moment. Then she said, very carefully, "Mrs. Tavares, what you're describing is conspiracy to commit murder. This is a criminal matter. Have you spoken to the police?" "No, not yet. I needed to talk to you first. I needed to protect myself, legally, financially, before I go to the police and everything explodes." She nodded slowly. "That's smart. Very smart. Here's what we need to do, and we need to do it fast." Over the next 2 hours, she outlined a plan. First, I would change my will immediately, that very day, removing Marcelo as a beneficiary and naming Sophia and a children's charity as my heirs instead. Second, I would transfer my savings, about 200,000 reais I'd accumulated over decades of careful living, into a new account that only Roberto and I could access. Marcelo had been listed as a secondary on my account, just in case something happened. Now I understood what he'd been planning for that access. Third, I would install security cameras in my home, discreetly, so any further interaction with Marcelo and Vanessa would be recorded. And fourth, most importantly, I would set a trap. If they're planning something, Dr. Carvalho said, tapping her pen against her notepad, they'll make a move soon, probably very soon. You need evidence beyond these text messages. You need them on record attempting something or admitting to their plans. The texts are strong, but a good defense attorney could argue they were taken out of context or faked. I felt sick. The idea of deliberately putting myself in danger to catch my own son in the act felt surreal, but I nodded. What do you need me to do? Act normal. If they invite themselves over, let them come. Don't eat or drink anything they bring or prepare. Keep your phone recording. Be vigilant. And if anything feels immediately dangerous, you run and call the police. No heroics. Understood? Understood. She drew up the new will right there, printed it, had us sign it with a notary she called in from another office. By noon, it was done. Legal. Binding. Marcelo would get nothing from my death except maybe a few pieces of furniture with sentimental value. That afternoon, Roberto and I went to the bank. The manager, a woman named Teresa who I'd known for 15 years, helped us open the new account. She was professional, friendly, asking questions about minimum balances and interest rates. But halfway through, she paused and looked at me carefully. Lucia, is everything all right? This is a big change. Just planning for the future, I said, my voice steady. You know how it is. Getting older makes you think about these things. She nodded, but I could see the concern in her eyes. Well, if you ever need anything, you call me, okay? Okay. By Wednesday, the security cameras were installed. The technician, a young man with tattoos up both arms and a surprisingly gentle demeanor, showed us how to access the footage from our phones. He placed cameras in the living room, kitchen, and hallway. Tiny things hidden in smoke detectors and the frame of a decorative mirror. You'll see everything, he said. Motion activated. Stores to the cloud. Even if someone destroys the camera, the footage is safe. Thank you, I said. No problem. Stay safe, okay? I wondered if he could tell. If something in my face gave away the terror I was carrying around like a second skin. Thursday night, my phone rang. Marcelo's name lit up the screen. For a second, I couldn't breathe. Roberto, sitting beside me on the couch, squeezed my shoulder. You can do this, he whispered. I answered. Hello? Hey, Mom. Marcelo's voice was bright, happy. How are you feeling? Still tired from the party? A little, I admitted. That much was true. Well, Vanessa and I were thinking, why don't we come over for dinner this weekend? Just the four of us, low-key. We could cook for you for once. My stomach dropped. Dr. Carvalho had warned me. If they invite themselves over, especially for a meal, be very, very careful. That's when they'll likely make their move. That sounds nice, I said, keeping my voice light. Warm. The voice of a mother who loved her son and suspected nothing. Saturday? Perfect. We'll bring everything. You just relax. Oh, and Mom, I'll bring some wine. That nice red you like. Great. See you then. I hung up and looked at Roberto. His face was ashen. This is it, he said. Yes, I whispered. This is it. The next 2 days felt like living underwater. Everything was muted, slow, surreal. I went through the motions, grocery shopping, answering emails, watering the plants, but my mind was elsewhere, preparing, planning, trying to imagine every possible scenario and how I'd respond. Dr. Carvalho called Friday afternoon. Are you ready for tomorrow? As ready as I'll ever be. Remember, don't eat or drink anything they bring or prepare unless you see it being opened or cooked from scratch. Keep your phone recording, and if you feel unsafe at any point, you leave immediately. Promise me. I promise. Lucia, she said, her voice softening. I know this is unimaginably hard, but you're doing the right thing. Whatever happens tomorrow, you're protecting yourself and potentially countless others. If they did this to you, They might do it to someone else. I hadn't thought of that. The idea that Marcelo could do this again, to someone else, to Sophia maybe if she ever came back permanently, made me feel cold all over. Saturday came. The morning stretched out endlessly. I cleaned the house even though it was already clean. Roberto checked the cameras 3 times, making sure they were working, that the angles were right, that nothing would be missed. At 5:30, we heard a car pull into the driveway. They were early. Marcelo and Vanessa came through the front door, all smiles and warmth. Marcelo was carrying 2 bags of groceries. Vanessa had a bouquet of lilies in one hand and a bottle of wine in the other. My heart sank when I saw the lilies. They were beautiful, tall, white, fragrant. And I'm severely allergic to lilies. I'd told Vanessa that once, years ago, at a family dinner when someone had brought a similar arrangement. I'd had to excuse myself, my throat closing up, eyes watering. She'd been there. She'd seen it. Now here she was, holding them out to me with a brilliant smile. For you, Lucia. They reminded me of you. Elegant. Thank you, I managed, taking them carefully. Roberto immediately took them from me. I'll put these in water, he said, in the other room. Vanessa's smile tightened just a fraction, but she didn't comment. Marcelo handed Roberto the wine bottle. A thank you, he said, for everything you've done for us. Roberto set it on the counter without opening it. We all moved to the living room, that familiar space where we'd watched countless movies, where Marcelo had played with toys as a child, where we'd celebrated birthdays and holidays and ordinary Tuesdays. Now it felt like a stage set. Artificial. Dangerous. Small talk filled the air. How's work, Marcelo? Vanessa, did you finish that project? The weather's been nice. Did you see that article about the new highway? Words that meant nothing, covering the real conversation happening in glances and body language, and the tension that hummed beneath every sentence. Roberto had set his phone on the coffee table before they arrived. The camera pointed toward the couch where Marcelo and Vanessa sat, recording everything. They didn't notice. Or if they did, they didn't care. Everyone records things now. It's normal. At one point, about 20 minutes in, Vanessa excused herself to use the bathroom. Stomach's been bothering me, she said with an apologetic smile. Probably something I ate at lunch. I watched her walk down the hallway, her heels clicking on the tile floor we'd installed 10 years ago. Roberto and I had picked out that tile together, spent a weekend laying it ourselves to save money. Every inch of this house had memories. And now it was a crime scene waiting to happen. Through the doorway, just for a second, I saw it. Vanessa stopped at the kitchen counter, glanced back toward the living room where we sat, then reached into her purse. Her hand moved quickly, something small passing from the purse to her palm. She turned toward the sink. My blood turned to ice. Roberto saw it too. I felt him tense beside me. When Vanessa came back, she was smiling, relaxed. Lucia, can I get you some water? You look a little flushed. It's warm in here. I'm fine, I said quickly. Too quickly. I saw Marcelo glance at me, something flickering in his expression. No, I insist. Vanessa was already walking to the kitchen. You've been such a gracious host. Let me do this one small thing. I heard the faucet run, the clink of a glass against the counter, the sound of water pouring. Every second stretched into an eternity. She came back with the glass, clear water catching the lamplight, looking pure and innocent and deadly. She handed it to me with both hands, like an offering. Here, drink up. You'll feel better. I took it. The glass was cold against my palms. I could see condensation forming on the sides. It looked like regular water, like something that would save you, not kill you. Thank you, I said, and then I set it on the side table next to my chair, untouched. Vanessa's smile tightened. Just a fraction, but I saw it. The tiny crack in the facade. Marcelo leaned forward, his elbows on his knees, his expression concerned, loving. The mask he'd worn all my life, apparently. Mom, are you feeling okay? You've seemed off lately. Distracted. I'm fine, sweetheart. You sure? Because Vanessa and I have been worried. Those chest pains you mentioned a couple months ago. Have they come back? My heart was pounding so hard I thought they might hear it. They were nothing. Just stress. The doctor said I was fine. But at your age, you have to be careful. Heart problems in women are often ignored until it's too late. He said it with such sincerity, such genuine seeming concern. If I didn't know better, I'd think he actually cared. I'm aware, I said. Silence fell over the room, heavy and thick and suffocating. Marcelo and Vanessa exchanged a glance. It lasted less than a second, but I saw everything in it. Frustration, impatience, confusion about why I wasn't drinking the water, and something darker, something that looked like recalculation, like they were adjusting their plans on the fly. Well, Marcelo said, standing abruptly, we should probably start dinner. We brought everything to make your favorite. Chicken with that cream sauce you love. That's not necessary, Roberto said. We can order something. No, we want to do this. Vanessa was already heading to the kitchen, grabbing the grocery bags. Roberto followed immediately. I'll help. That left me and Marcelo in the living room, alone. He sat back down, closer to me now, and took my hand. His hand was warm, familiar, the hand that used to be so small in mine. Mom, I know things have been stressful. Dad mentioned you've been having trouble sleeping. I hadn't been having trouble sleeping until a week ago, and Roberto hadn't mentioned anything to Marcelo. So where was this coming from? I'm fine, I repeated. It's just, you're getting older, and we worry. Vanessa and I, we want to make sure you're taken care of, that you're not alone if something happens. I have your father. I know, but still, we're family. We take care of each other. He squeezed my hand. Promise me you'll say something if you're not feeling well. If your chest hurts again, or if you feel dizzy, or anything. Promise? I looked into my son's eyes and saw a stranger. I promise, I lied. From the kitchen came the sounds of cooking, water running, pots clanking. Roberto's voice, low and firm, saying something I couldn't make out. Vanessa laughing. Everything so normal, so domestic, so absolutely terrifying. Marcelo finally let go of my hand and stood up. I should go help them. You just relax, okay? Okay. I sat there alone in my living room, the glass of water still on the side table, untouched and waiting. The security camera hidden in the smoke detector was recording everything. The camera in the mirror was getting another angle. Evidence was being gathered. But I felt hollow, empty. Because what's the point of evidence when the crime is your son wanting you dead? Dinner took 45 minutes to prepare. I could hear them talking in the kitchen, their voices a murmur of normalcy. Roberto came out once, caught my eye, gave me a tiny nod. He was watching everything, protecting me the only way he could. Finally, Vanessa called out, "Dinner's ready." We gathered at the dining room table, the same table where we'd eaten thousands of meals as a family. Marcelo and Vanessa had set it beautifully. Candles, good dishes. The chicken looked perfect, swimming in cream sauce, garnished with herbs, a salad, bread, wine glasses at each setting. This looks amazing, I said, and it did. That was the cruelty of it. They'd gone to all this trouble, made everything beautiful, and it was all just window dressing for murder. Marcelo poured wine for everyone except me. Water for you, Mom, since you said you're not feeling well. I didn't say that, I corrected gently. Oh, well, I thought. He trailed off, looking confused, or pretending to. We started eating. Roberto and I were careful, watching everything that went on our plates. The chicken came from a serving dish we'd both seen them prepare. The salad was in a bowl we'd watched Vanessa toss. The bread was store-bought, still in its wrapper. Everything seemed safe, but I barely tasted any of it. My mouth was dry. My stomach churned. Halfway through the meal, Vanessa stood up. I forgot the dessert. I made your favorite, Lucia. That chocolate mousse you love. She disappeared into the kitchen, came back with 4 small glass bowls, each filled with dark, rich mousse topped with whipped cream. Roberto and I didn't touch ours. Marcelo noticed. What's wrong? Don't you like chocolate mousse anymore? Just very full, Roberto said smoothly. Maybe later. Oh, come on. Vanessa worked so hard on it. There was an edge in Marcelo's voice now. Slight, but there. Later, I agreed. Vanessa's jaw tightened. She picked up her spoon and took a bite of her own mousse. It's delicious. You're missing out. We finished dinner in strained silence. When it was over, Marcelo and Vanessa insisted on cleaning up. Roberto and I retreated to the living room, and this time I grabbed the glass of water from the side table, carried it with us. I wasn't letting it out of my sight. 20 minutes later, they emerged from the kitchen. Well, we should get going, Marcelo said. Early morning tomorrow. They hugged us goodbye. Marcelo held me a little too long. Love you, Mom. Please take care of yourself. You too, I whispered. They left. Roberto locked the door behind them, threw the deadbolt, and then turned to me. "Give me the glass." I handed it to him. He grabbed the mousse bowls too, carefully, using napkins so he wouldn't contaminate them with fingerprints. We put everything into sealed containers, the glass, the bowls, even the water bottle Vanessa had grabbed from our fridge. "Now we wait," he said. We didn't have to wait long. Dr. Carvalho had given us the name of a private lab that could do expedited testing. No questions asked. We dropped everything off Sunday morning, paid an exorbitant fee for 48-hour results. The call came Tuesday afternoon. Dr. Carvalho was on the line, her voice tight. "Mrs. Tavares, the water tested positive for digoxin, a cardiac medication that can cause fatal arrhythmia and heart attack if taken incorrectly, especially by someone not prescribed it. The dosage in that glass was enough to kill you. The mousse was clean. I couldn't breathe. I thought I might be sick. My son tried to kill me." "Yes," she said gently. "He did. And now we have proof. Concrete. Scientific proof. It's time to go to the police." That afternoon, I went to the police station with Roberto and Dr. Carvalho. We brought everything. The screenshots, the lab results, the security footage showing Vanessa with the water, the recording from Roberto's phone capturing Marcelo's suspicious questions, and their frustrated reactions when I didn't drink. The detective assigned to our case was a man named Silva, probably in his 50s, with tired eyes and gray stubble. He listened to my story without interrupting. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and let out a long breath. "Mrs. Tavares, I'm so sorry. I've been doing this job for 26 years, and cases like this, they never get easier." He tapped the folder of evidence. "But we have enough here to press charges. Attempted murder, conspiracy. I'll need you to come back tomorrow to give a formal statement. Then we'll move forward with arrests." I nodded. I couldn't speak. If I opened my mouth, I'd start screaming and never stop. The next day, Wednesday morning, Marcelo and Vanessa were arrested at their apartment. I wasn't there. I couldn't be. I stayed home with Roberto, the curtains drawn, watching the morning light creep across the floor and feeling like the world had ended. Sophia called from London. She'd seen the news. It was already on local websites, spreading through social media. "Mom, oh my God, Mom. I'm okay," I told her, but I wasn't. I was shattered. "I'm coming home. I'm booking a flight right now." "No, Sophia, you don't have to. I'm coming home." She arrived 3 days later, hugged me so tight I thought my ribs would crack. She cried. I cried. Roberto cried. We were a family of broken people trying to figure out how to keep breathing. The trial took 8 months to start, another 2 months to complete. I sat in that courtroom every single day, in the third row on the left, watching my son lie, watching him perform. Marcelo's defense was that the texts were fabricated, that Elena, Vanessa's sister, had created them out of jealousy because Marcelo had rejected her advances years ago, that the digoxin in the water was planted by Roberto because he wanted my estate for himself, that I was a confused old woman being manipulated by a controlling husband. It was all absurd, all easily disproven. But hearing him say those things, watching him point at Roberto with fake righteous anger, seeing him dab at crocodile tears, it was agony. Vanessa's defense was simpler. Marcelo had manipulated her. She was a victim of his gaslighting and abuse. She'd had no idea what was in the water. She was just doing what her husband told her to do. The prosecution shredded both stories. They had the text messages, verified by forensic experts. They had Elena's testimony. They had the lab results. They had the security footage. They had motive, the will, the savings account, the history of Marcelo asking about my health. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they came back, the forewoman stood and read the verdict in a clear, steady voice, guilty on all counts. Marcelo didn't react at first. He just stared straight ahead, his face blank. Then, slowly, he turned and looked at me, really looked at me. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I saw something real in his eyes. Not remorse, not love, not even hatred, just emptiness, like whoever he'd once been, whoever I'd raised and loved and believed in, had never existed at all. The judge sentenced him to 12 years. Vanessa got 15 as the primary actor. When the gavel came down, final and absolute, I felt nothing. No relief, no satisfaction. Just a vast, echoing emptiness where my son used to be. It's been 2 years since then. I still live in the house by the coast that Roberto and I bought after selling the old place. We couldn't stay there. Too many memories. Too many ghosts. This house is smaller, simpler, right on the water. In the mornings, I sit on the balcony with my coffee and watch the waves. The sound is hypnotic, constant, like the world's heartbeat. It reminds me I'm still here, still alive, still breathing. I don't talk to Marcelo. He writes me letters sometimes, from prison. Long letters filled with excuses and justifications and, occasionally, what might be apologies. I keep them in a box in the closet. I haven't opened a single one. Maybe one day I will. Maybe not. I don't owe him my forgiveness just because he's my son. Sophia came home permanently. She lives in the city, about an hour away, and visits every Sunday. We cook together, talk about her work, watch old movies. She never mentions Marcelo unless I bring him up first. She's careful with me, like I'm something fragile that might shatter. Maybe I am, but I'm also stronger than I thought. That's what I've learned, that you can be both broken and strong at the same time, that you can grieve and survive simultaneously, that choosing life every single day, even when someone you loved tried to take it away, is its own kind of victory. I started volunteering at a women's shelter 6 months ago. Every Tuesday and Thursday, I spend the afternoon there, talking to women who've been betrayed by husbands, boyfriends, family members. I tell them my story. I listen to theirs. And somehow, in that exchange, we all heal a little bit. One woman, Maria, told me last month, "You give me hope. If you can survive your own son trying to kill you, I can survive this." She was talking about her ex-husband, who'd put her in the hospital twice. She left him. She's rebuilding her life. And knowing I played even a small part in that decision makes all of this feel slightly less meaningless. Some days are harder than others. I'll be at the grocery store and see a mother with her adult son, laughing together over something mundane, and the grief hits me like a physical force. I'll have to leave my cart and go sit in the car until I can breathe again. Roberto finds me there sometimes. He doesn't say anything, just holds my hand until the worst of it passes. Therapy helps. I see Dr. Mendez every Wednesday at 4. She's patient, kind, doesn't push me to forgive or forget or move on, the way some people think I should. Healing isn't linear, she told me once. Some wounds don't close. They just become part of who you are. I'm learning to be okay with that. To be okay with the fact that I'll never fully understand why Marcelo did what he did. Maybe it was greed. Maybe it was Vanessa's influence. Maybe there was always something broken in him that I missed. Some flaw in his character that I was too close to see. Or maybe, and this is the thought that haunts me most, maybe I did see it, all along, and chose to ignore it, because he was my son, and I loved him, and love makes you blind to things you shouldn't be blind to. Dr. Mendez says, I need to stop blaming myself, that I did everything a mother should do, that his choices are his own. Intellectually, I know she's right. Emotionally, I'm still working on believing it, but I am working on it. Every single day. That's what matters. Last month, on what would have been Marcelo's 39th birthday, I did something I never thought I'd do. I wrote him a letter. Not to send, just to write. To get the words out of my head and onto paper where they couldn't hurt me anymore. Dear Marcelo, I don't know who you are. Maybe I never did. Maybe the boy I thought I raised was always a fiction. A story I told myself because I needed to believe I'd done something right in this life. You tried to kill me. I've written that sentence 100 times and it still doesn't feel real. You, my baby boy, the child I would have died for without hesitation. You wanted me dead so you could have my money. I don't understand it. I've tried. God knows I've tried. But I can't make it make sense. What I do understand is this. I survived. Despite your best efforts. Despite your careful planning. Despite the fact that you were willing to look me in the eye and lie and smile and slowly poison me. I survived. And I'm choosing to see that as a gift. Not from you. Never from you. But from whatever force in the universe decided I still had work to do here. People to help. Love to give. Life to live. You took a lot from me. My trust. My innocence. My ability to see families like mine as safe. As sacred. But you didn't take everything. I'm still here. I'm still me. Broken. Yes. Changed. Absolutely. But alive. I don't know if I'll ever forgive you. I don't even know if forgiveness is something you deserve or something I need to give myself. But I do know this. I won't let what you did define the rest of my life. You don't get that power over me. Goodbye, Marcelo. I hope someday you find whatever it is you're looking for. I hope it's worth what you lost to look for it. Your mother. I burned the letter afterward, watched the paper curl and blacken and turn to ash. It felt ceremonial, final, like closing a chapter I'd been stuck on for too long. There's a saying I heard once, in one of those grief support groups I attended right after the trial. A woman stood up and said, "The people who hurt us the most are the ones we love the most, because they're the only ones who get close enough to do real damage." I think about that a lot, about how Marcelo had access to my entire life, my health, my finances, my routines, my vulnerabilities, about how trust is the weapon that cuts deepest, about how love, real love, requires you to hand someone a knife and trust they won't use it. Marcelo used it, but I also think about the people who didn't. Roberto, who stood by me every single day of this nightmare. Sophia, who flew across an ocean to hold me while I cried. Dr. Carvalho, who fought for me when I could barely fight for myself. Detective Silva, who took my case seriously when he could have dismissed it as family drama. Elena, Vanessa's sister, who risked her own safety to warn us. Those are the people who remind me that not everyone is cruel, that not every hand extended is a trap, that trust, even after it's been shattered, can be slowly, carefully rebuilt with the right people. I'm learning to trust again. It's hard. It's terrifying. But I'm doing it. Last week, a new woman came to the shelter. She was my age, gray-haired, with eyes that looked like they'd seen too much. She sat in the corner during group, didn't speak, just listened. Afterward, she approached me hesitantly. "Your story," she said. "The one about your son. I needed to hear that." "Why?" I asked gently. "Because my daughter is trying to do the same thing. Slowly, making me think I'm losing my mind. Stealing money. I thought I was paranoid. But you made me realize I'm not crazy. I'm in danger." We talked for an hour. I gave her Dr. Carvalho's number, told her about the steps I took, held her hand while she cried, and when she left, she hugged me and whispered, "Thank you for surviving. It gave me permission to survive too." That's when I knew. This pain, this betrayal, this absolute shattering of everything I thought I knew about family and love, it wasn't meaningless. It made me someone who could help others, someone who understood, someone who could say, "I know exactly how you feel, and I promise you can get through this," and mean it with every cell of my body. So I guess that's what I'm doing now, getting through it. One day at a time, one wave at a time, one sunrise at a time. I'm 67 years old. I wake up every morning grateful to be alive, grateful that I saw the truth before it killed me, grateful for the people who loved me enough to fight for me, grateful for second chances and new beginnings, and the stubborn, relentless beating of my heart. The grief is still there. It probably always will be. I still have moments where I see a father and son together and feel like I've been gutted, where I wonder what I did wrong, what I could have done differently, whether there was a moment I could have intervened and changed everything. But those moments are getting smaller, further apart, less consuming, and in between them, there's life. Real, messy, beautiful, terrifying, precious life. Roberto and I went dancing last weekend, just to a small place downtown. Nothing fancy, but we danced. We laughed. We held each other and swayed to music, and for a few hours the weight lifted. Sophia is dating someone, a kind man who makes her laugh. She brought him to Sunday dinner last week, nervous and hopeful, and when I hugged him hello, I felt something I thought I'd lost, the ability to welcome someone new into my family without fear. The garden I planted is blooming, tomatoes and herbs and flowers I can't name but that smell like heaven. I work in it every afternoon, my hands in the dirt, coaxing life from soil. It feels symbolic, maybe. Or maybe it's just nice to make something grow. This is my life now. Not the one I planned, not the one I wanted, but the one I'm living. And I'm choosing, every single day, to make it worth something, to make my survival mean something. To prove that even when the people who should love you most betray you in the worst possible way, you can still choose hope. You can still choose life. You can still choose to believe that tomorrow might be better than today. Because the alternative, giving up, giving in, letting the bitterness consume me, that would mean Marcelo won. That would mean he took my life after all, just in a different way. And I refuse to give him that. I refuse to let what he did be the end of my story. So I'm writing a new story. One where I'm not a victim, where I'm a survivor, a fighter, a woman who looked death in the face, delivered by her own son's hand, and said, "Not today. That's who I am now, and I'm okay with that." If this story touched you, I hope you'll share it with someone who needs to hear it, someone who's struggling to see the danger in their own life, someone who needs a reminder that survival is possible, that you can rebuild after betrayal, that choosing life, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard, is the bravest thing you can do. And if you'd like to hear more stories like this, please subscribe to this channel. Stories about resilience, about truth, about the complicated, messy, painful, beautiful work of being human, about finding light even in the darkest places, about believing that tomorrow can be different from today. Because sometimes, we need to hear other people's stories to remember we're not alone in our own. Sometimes we need to know that someone else survived the unsurvivable, and that means maybe, just maybe, we can too. This channel is about those stories, about those moments, about those reasons to keep going when everything in you wants to quit. Thank you for listening to mine. Thank you for being here. Thank you for witnessing my survival and, in doing so, making it matter. Your story matters too. Whatever you're going through, whatever you're facing, whatever person or circumstance is trying to break you, your story matters, and I hope you'll keep telling it, keep living it, keep choosing it, one day at a time, one breath at a time, one sunrise at a time, until one day you look back and realize you made it through, you survived, you're still here, and that's everything. See you in the next story. Until then, take care of yourself. Be careful who you trust. But don't stop trusting altogether. The world still has good people in it. I promise. I'm proof.